Hello there, parents. For those of you that haven't met me or don't know me, my name is Christian Martino. I am the Assistant Principal Student Development at the Flinders Park campus. Obviously, it's rather tricky for us to meet, given the, I suppose, craziness of the end of the term. So I thought I would just provide you with a bit of a PowerPoint and some detail about a program that we're putting in place for our Year 9s for next year. So obviously, you're currently the parent of a Year 8. They'll be moving into Year 9 next year, and they are very lucky because they are going to be the first year level at Nazareth to participate in the Rite Journey. It's a very well-known program, the Rite Journey, across South Australia and actually across Australia, into New Zealand, parts of Asia as well. And it's about that development from childhood into adulthood. We acknowledge that, I suppose, in comparison to the past, there's not really, or in other cultures as well, there's not really a rite of passage from childhood into adulthood. So the idea of the Rite Journey is, I suppose, to emulate that rite of passage for young people. I just wanted to provide you with a little bit of information about how that's going to look for your child for next year. I just wanted to start with a couple of little quotes about males and females and how things have changed a little bit. So as you can see here, many years ago in traditional societies, boys grew up in the company of men, learning how to act and behave as a man, as well as learning the skills for living as a man. They were initiated and then were expected to fulfill their task as men in their society. We know that things are a little bit different today in our Western society here in Australia, and we don't necessarily have our young men spending so much quality time with a range of men, learning skills, and all of that sort of stuff. Similarly, for females, many years ago in traditional societies, girls grew up in the company of women to be their true self. They were educated, prepared, and honoured around their cyclic nature, and were taught the mysteries of womanhood. We know now that that's not the case for young women, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about how that is different, I suppose, today, and how the Rite Journey works within, those standards of society that we have today. So if we look at what the program is, the Rite Journey is an educational program aimed at supporting the development of self-aware, responsible, respectful, resilient, and resourceful young adults. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a parent who would look at those aims and not want that for their child. The focus of this course isn't around writing essays and referencing and all of that sort of stuff, which is obviously very, very important for a young person's education development. This is more about them growing into adulthood and being the right kind of man or woman that we need for our society. We look at the young person will look at their relationship with their self, their own self-identity, their relationship with others. They look at in terms of spirituality and faith, and they look at their relationship with the world, as global citizens. Why do we do it? Well, our world is complex and at times difficult to navigate. There's a couple of hard truths, I suppose, coming up. We know that this isn't true for every single child in our community, but we know that it's true for many young children. We know that boys are often underfathered, and the media displays role models making poor choices. So the men that they're not around so many positive role models necessarily, but also the men that they look up to in the forms of the media, some of the celebrities and whatnot, aren't really making the best choices, so setting them up for success in terms of who they're looking up to. For girls, we know that they're prematurely sexualized, and popular media presents unobtainable role models, in terms of the success, that quick road to success of some of those celebrities that we have today, or in terms of physical features, those sorts of things are often unobtainable. We know that young children or our young people are, I suppose, bubble wrapped is a term that we can use. They're not allowed to take the risks and the challenges that they were able to in the past, and we know that can often prevent or stunt, that social growth or that personal growth that comes through those experiences. And we also know that young people average 30 hours a week in front of a screen, so that's time taken away from those positive interactions with others, not only with each other, but role models. It also takes away their time to think and consider who they are in this world and what the role is that they play and those around them. So the Rite Journey aims to support young people to develop the skills to thrive in this world. How does it work? Well, over the course of the year, so this is next year obviously as a year 9, students will participate in a program which revolves around reflection, discussion and developing strategies around the transition to young adulthood. So again, it's not about sitting and writing essays about this sort of stuff or creating assignments. A lot of this is done around reflection and discussion. A teacher is the facilitator, and they mentor as well as mentors and caregivers who are supporting at various points throughout the journey. And I'll obviously elaborate on what that looks like for you and for your child too. It's a student-focused program, and the outcomes rely on meaningful participation. So the more a student puts into this, the more they're going to get out of it, obviously. Once you access this PowerPoint, I'd encourage you to click on those 2 links at the bottom. As I said earlier, this is a popular, a growing course, I suppose, worldwide. It is in a few schools in South Australia and then obviously interstate, and is starting to now grow into other places throughout the world. But there's a couple of links there to some schools in South Australia that have been doing the Rite Journey for some time, Sacred Heart and King's Baptist. We've worked, I suppose, somewhat closely with Sacred Heart to have a look at their program and how that works, given that they have a somewhat similar context in terms of co-ed Catholic school and that sort of thing. So please have a look at that, one of those 2 videos, just to get a little bit more of an idea in a practical sense from some schools that have been doing this for a little while. I think that's well worthwhile checking out. Now, in terms of the way that the Rite Journey is going to look at Nazareth, and as I said, we've been in dialogue, I suppose, obviously with the creator of the program, whose name is Andrew Lyons. He's come up and done some extensive work with not only me in terms of putting the program together, but also with the staff who are going to teach this and the house coordinators. So we've used his expertise, and obviously liaising with some of those schools that have been doing the program for a little while, such as Sacred Heart, to get a bit of an idea of how we can do this at our school, while obviously putting our own spin on it, given that this is our, we want to make the program our own. Some of these are obviously non-negotiable for the purposes of the course. So the way that the course is going to be taught is that it'll be house-based, and it'll be split into, it'll be split gender classes. So each house will offer 2 classes of the Rite Journey for their year 9s, but all females will be in one class and all males will be in another class. And obviously the females will have a female teacher from that house, and the males will have a male teacher from that house. Rite Journey classes will be in the form of 1 80-minute session per week, and that will be during MG on a Friday. And it will be that same teacher for the duration of the year, ideally, obviously, because we really feel that it is important for that teacher to see that child's growth over the course of the year, and obviously be there as that constant mentor for them. Each student will have a Rite Journey guidebook, so that will be part of the materials, I suppose, that parents purchase in preparation for every year. It's on the book list and all of that sort of thing. So essentially that's the way that the course looks in its essence. There are 4 themes that are covered over the course of the year, and this is the way that they're written in the guidebook. So who am I really is about looking at one's self. Exploring identity, heritage, personal strengths and weaknesses. How do I get on with others? Looks at exploring emotions, relationships, self-regulation and awareness, friendships and sexuality. Is there something more? Looks at exploring spirituality and belief and how they tie in with the person, with an individual, but also in terms of the way that they interact with others. And what do I have to give is the final one, which looks at exploring what it means to take risks, be grateful, learn boundaries, and deal with change. In looking at all of these topics, we acknowledge that we're doing this in a Catholic setting. So while we present a wide range, I suppose, of different resources, opinions, and all of that sort of stuff. It's very much done with a lens which is true to our identity as a college as well. So the way that the course is structured, I suppose, this is what we call the journey, and there's 6 elements to the journey: the calling, the departure, the following, the challenges, the abyss, the return, and the homecoming. And all of these events take place, I suppose, over the course of the year. And what I'll do is I'll just step you through each element of the journey so that you can gain a little bit of an understanding. Obviously, given that we want parents and mentors to be involved in this, there is, I suppose, a requirement and a commitment from parents and hopefully mentors, additional mentors as well, to support the children along the way in this adventure. So I'll sort of go into a little bit more detail about what that sort of stuff looks like as we go along. So that first step is the calling and departure, and we've decided to do those first 2 steps together as one. A lot of schools do it in that way, and we think that for our context, that's going to work really well. So the way that we're going to do that is at the mouth of the Torrens, students will express their gratitude for their childhood and are called to begin the journey into adulthood. So at 6:30 a.m., which I know is early, but it's symbolic. I'll explain why we're going to do that momentarily. On Thursday, week 4, term 1 of next year, which is the 18th of February, we're going to ask students and you as parents, and hopefully their mentors as well, to gather at West Beach. There will be a little bit of ceremony, I suppose, and then you will join us for a walk, ideally, back to the college for a little bit of an additional ceremony and some shared breakfast, we're hoping. The symbolism there is, given that 6:30 a.m. Is around about the time of sunrise, the idea there being that the sun is rising on the child's, the life, this new step in the life of the child. So that's the symbolism of sunrise. And obviously we want to kind of emulate that journey by walking from the mouth of the Torrens at West Beach along the Linear Park Trail back to school, back to the Flinders Park campus down the back there. And then we're looking to have some kind of celebration in the St. Sebastian Centre. Obviously, for a lot of these events, the purpose of this PowerPoint is to draw your attention to these things, to allow you to mark some of them in your calendar. And then as we get more clarity around what that's going to look like, we'll continue to provide information for families and for students so that you know what that looks like. But please mark that one in your diary now. Obviously, things going according to plan, we're hoping that that's something that we can offer. Obviously, the state of things at the moment would suggest that might be a little bit challenging, but moving forward, we're hoping that we can go as we intend with that. So please consider that one now and perhaps jot that one down in your diary. Then there's the following element. So that's where students are guided throughout the year by a number of supportive adults, including teachers, parents, caregivers, and mentors. That's really where, it's the whole package, I suppose. In class, teachers will discuss, I suppose, what the content is of that, wherever they're at in the guidebook. And then we'll make sure that we have that dialogue with parents so that they can then pick that conversation up at home, parents and caregivers, of course. And then we're also asking that students, we've sent this same PowerPoint out to the students with the hope that they look at it. So if you speak to your child and they haven't yet viewed it, please have a conversation with them and ask that they do that. We've asked them to identify a mentor who is obviously the same gender as them. So if it's a female student, then a female mentor, a male student, male mentor, someone that can kind of be a little bit of a touch point, I suppose, throughout this whole journey, that they can have a dialogue with over the course of the Rite Journey, but also someone that they might be able to do like a little bit of a project with. So they might want to build something with them. They might want to have a regular, this isn't necessarily a project, but a regular catch up, go out for ice cream or a coffee or something semi-regularly and have a little bit of a chat or shoot some hoops or whatever else, go for a bike ride. But someone outside of family, so not a brother, not a parent, preferably even not an uncle or cousin. I mean, if that works well, then that might be a good fit, but maybe not even that. It could be a family friend or someone else. It needs to be someone that's an adult. So a young adult is obviously fine, but someone that has entered adulthood. Um, and yeah, we're asking students to identify someone like that. Um, you know, if it's a student who's made who's been baptized and has made their confirmation, they might want to choose a godparent or they might want to choose their sponsor or something like that. So we're asking students to also assign a mentor who can be part of this process. We have the challenges. So we're going to give the children, your children, a set of, or your young adults, I should say, a set of challenges that we want them to achieve over the course of the year. They'll get, it'll be an additional booklet that we're going to print and provide ourselves that students will get with a series of challenges that they can have a look at and attempt to overcome. So if you go back and watch that Sacred Heart video, you'll notice that it starts off talking about juggling. So that's the sort of stuff we're talking about, things that require a little bit of resilience, some additional skills, and the right kind of mindset, like a growth mindset to achieve a lot of what we're talking about. We have the Abyss. Now, currently we're in negotiations with a provider to offer a camp at the end of term 3. That's dependent on a number of factors, obviously. The idea of the Abyss part of the program is that it needs to be a challenge that really takes students out of their comfort zone and helps them learn more about themselves. We have very minimal detail about that at the moment, but it is something we're in negotiations with. So I'm hoping that by the beginning of next year, I can provide you with some clarity around what that will look like. But we are looking at around the end of term 3 to offer that part of it. So at this stage, it's going to be something like a camp. And then there's a return and the homecoming. So similar to the initial parts, this will require some involvement from parents. It gives the students an opportunity to reflect on what they've learned and experienced throughout the year, and to, I suppose, reflect on the gifts and skills that they'll carry into adulthood. But then it's also a celebration with parents, caregivers, and mentors and teachers. We really want to celebrate, what they've brought to the program, and how far they've come and all of that sort of stuff. So that will be at the end. And again, we'll provide more details about when and where and all that sort of stuff as we get closer to the date. Now it says there questions. My intention obviously was to offer this as a seminar, an evening seminar for parents. But please, if you do have any questions, it would be great if you could email me. I'd love to provide some more clarity. Early next year, we are going to have ideally, we're going to have the facilitator, sorry, the creator of the program, whose name is Andrew Lyons, come and speak to you as a parent body at an evening session or something like that, just to, I suppose, give a little bit more information about the course from his perspective. And I'll obviously be part of that as well to reiterate some of the things we've said here, but provide some clarity on some of the upcoming, some of those things that we've been able to finalize. The Rite Journey really is something that we want to journey on together with parents, mentors, and children and students, and young adults. So we need to continue to have a dialogue with each other around this. We really appreciate your feedback throughout the process. As I said earlier, this is something that we're doing for the first time here at Nazareth. Your children are very, very lucky to be able to participate in this program, I suppose, in terms of piloting it and giving it a bit of direction for future years. So I look forward to hearing further feedback from you, and also to continue to meet with you to provide information about what this is going to look like in 2021. Thank you very much.